could play death grips for the people waiting for the webinar to start.
I don't know how much people would appreciate that. I'm starting to see some people. I'm starting to see some people come in. Please drop your name and where you're from in the chat. I'll get started. I'm Eric from Indianapolis. We're going to be talking about AI today. Got the new AI writer built for you guys on Demandwell's platform. We got Jill in the chat. Welcome, Jill. Matt from Fishers. And today we're gonna be hopefully taking a lot of questions from you guys. Questions you have about AI, questions about SEO. Welcome, Grady. Yeah, we're gonna wait a couple more minutes to wait for people to trickle on in. But while we do so, Grady and I, we can introduce ourselves. My name is Eric. I'm the marketing manager here at Demandwell, filling in for Chantal, who's the usual host of SG Weekly. And I'm joined by Grady. Grady, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Grady Neff. I'm the solutions architect here at Demandwell. That kind of means that I sit across several different departments, helping out both on the services side of things, as well as marketing, sales, and the product itself. So been working in SEO for quite some time, know my way around a little bit, and it's great to be talking with everybody.
Yeah, just kind of as a sneak preview of what we're going to be talking about, Grady and I have been poking around our new AI writer tool. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago that Grady wrote around 50 articles by himself with this tool. Is that about right?
58.
58, yeah, solo. So yeah, this is powerful stuff. If you guys have any questions about that, you can drop them in the Q&A or in the chat. We'll try and make sure to get to them. I'm going to wait until 5 after to get started. And feel free, if you guys have questions right out the get-go, you can go ahead and ask us while we're waiting on everyone. Jill in the chat, searching for the ideal flavor responsible business opportunity. Am I missing something? I don't know if I understand that, Grady. Am I reading that right? Responsible business, biblically. Is my vocabulary not good?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, Jill, can you elaborate, please?
Yeah, Gil, my personal flavor preference is
Yeah.
pineapple. So maybe, I don't know if that helps point us in a specific direction or not.
Oh, well, I mean, like, I like popsicles. I like grape and strawberry.
Biblically responsible business.
Okay.
Let's save that one for the end, I think.
So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The overview. Today, we're going to be talking about AI content production, what its purpose is, how to incorporate it into your strategy, why is this a big deal now? Then we're going to go into the feature preview, walking through this AI question in SEO and how we've tackled it at Demandwell. And then we're going to go into a live demo to show you how these tools work, how our tool works, and give you some pointers on how to use AI when you're building content. How to use prompts, how to leverage AI to your advantage, how to make things quicker and better. Well, just again, real quick before we start, again, I'm Eric. I'm joined by Grady. Grady's the expert. I'm just here hosting. So let's get a poll in the chat going. Can you guys talk about a time that you've tried writing SEO copy with generative AI? Or if you haven't tried it, tell us also and what you're excited to learn about. I think the first time I used AI was not for SEO. Like a lot of people, I was just curious to see what silly things I could prompt and what it'd come up with. But once I started using it for SEO, I was starting to understand just how powerful this tool can be. Has anyone in the chat tried these generative tools? Oh, whoops.
Truth be told, too, I play music and I've used generative AI to do some like album art concepts, which is pretty interesting
Oh, that's pretty cool.
for the visual side of things. So it's pretty awesome.
We've got a message from Spencer. You've used it for writing blogs and articles, not necessarily SEO driven content. It's been helpful for keywords. Yeah. That's a great strategy for AI. We can get into that a little bit later. Yeah, Grady, let's get into some of the background. So back in November, OpenAI kind of just launched ChatGPT overnight, and it was the fastest growing software platform ever, reaching 1 million users in only 5 days. Now, this next point, I didn't really recognize it when we were walking through this deck this morning. Can you go into more detail about the significance? In January, CNET announced that it was using AI for copywriting for its own news articles.
Yeah, and I just thought that was kind of fascinating because basically, like any new technology, right? It makes a splash, and then people immediately start poo-pooing it. They say, "Oh, it's not necessarily going to be beneficial. There are plagiarism issues. There's content accuracy issues." And even us ourselves, like as an SEO company, developing software, we kind of were hesitant as well. It's like, well, we don't necessarily know how accurate this can be. It's still pretty fresh. But when CNET then kind of threw their hat into the ring and they're saying, yeah, we're doing this actually. And CNET is a massive website, clearly producing a lot of technical content, and they're still moving and grooving from a search perspective. It was kind of an awakening for a lot of people, and people's eyes opened. They're like, oh, wow, like this is actually being used kind of at scale. Um, After that point in time, it started to really accelerate fast. February, then Google started to jump in and realize like this isn't going away. It is so buzzy. People want to then use this for content production. And it began to then announce, well, one, its own suite of AI tools that are now being beta tested through search, that are being beta tested through Google Drive. Maybe some of you have access to that as well. Their new labs thing going on. But then also how then AI content can then be folded into its own search algorithm and how it prioritizes that type of copy, which we're going to get into here in a second. Immediately after that, ChatGPT just started to really accelerate. And then they went to GPT-4. It was a new data set that the language model would then improved upon. And it started to really kind of like shock everybody as to like how good this thing actually is. Lawyers started using it, programmers started using it, pretty substantial results. And OpenAI released new ways to basically integrate into that platform and enable people to then do new types of custom prompts, new types of engagement with the language model itself. There's a lot more that then is nuanced between this history as well, but that's kind of a real smash and grab to get to us now through the spring, where Demandwell effectively has our own solution as well, but more so geared towards like SEO copywriting to then yield better SEO results than just like kind of standard text generation.
Yeah, and I want to do a callback to the Sustainable Growth Summit we held, I think back in February or March. But we had a guest on from the AI Marketing Institute, or the Marketing AI Institute, and he was explaining to us about how the AI being used in ChatGPT is a couple years old, and that the database, at least, that it's built off of is a couple years old, and that the new stuff hasn't really been released yet. And what we're experiencing now is just kind of the beginning of the introduction to AI to how we do business. And we're only going to see how this can change more things in the coming months. This is moving pretty fast. So next we want to talk about Google, because I think the initial reaction to ChatGPT was that Google was done for, they weren't prepared, and that Bing was going to win some market share on Google. And the reality is that Google's market share has gone from almost 100% to not quite 100%. They're still the players in search. People are still using Google for the majority of their searches. So where does AI fit in Google's plans? Initially, they weren't really embracing AI. And slowly, as people started to become familiar with what AI could do, we believe at Demandwell that Google is kind of going back to basics when approaching how they value AI content. So Grady, can you go into some of the principles that Google is looking for in your content and how to build content that Google likes?
Yeah, and going back to basics, it's kind of an interesting way of putting it, Eric. Um, so effectively, right, like this is probably pretty basic for everyone, but I'll say it anyway. I mean, Google basically cares about its own usability on a platform, because in order for it to then retain users and traffic to then get paid through paid search ads, it has to then generate the best results possible through the search engine, through Google Drive, through all of its other platforms. If it doesn't do that, then the traffic will drop, it'll go somewhere else, and then Google loses out on money. And so that incentivizes Google to, one, keep up with the times, to then make sure that that's accounting for content that's then created in like new ways like AI. But then two, it doesn't necessarily dismiss it, and it just kind of like rolls it into its grading criteria without then degrading the results. So then that way it still delivers that quality experience to users, particularly through organic search. And so they came out with this EAT kind of concept for grading pages, which used to be experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And I threw the extra E in there for expertise, which then now kind of accounts for more so AI type content. Experience, that was referring to the experience on the page itself, make sure that it was mobile friendly, it was loading appropriately. A lot of core web vitals are rolled up into experience. But expertise and authoritativeness, this comes down to the quality of content, to make sure that it's not bait and switch type information, that you're going to a page and a website that then deserves to be talking about a subject in question for whoever's searching for it, and they can actually answer it for you. And then lastly, trustworthiness. Is it then referred to by multiple other places to then say this is in fact like the authority within this given space? So EEAT is kind of what we're going to look through the lens of when it comes to AI copywriting, and how Google then determines what is spam content manipulation, and how AI kind of fits into all of that.
Right.
So in general, Google has like a long list of criteria that they're using to then grade content online for search. They update it constantly through their own algorithm. A lot of that's listed, some of those in the links down there in the bottom left-hand corner, which we'd be happy to share with everyone in the chat. But effectively, The stance on AI on copy is that however content is produced today, is this top quote, those seeking success in Google search should be looking to produce original, quality, people first content that still meets those EEAT kind of criteria. That could be human written information, but it also could be written through automation or AI. And so long as it's not written with the purpose of just manipulating intent, then AI copy is actually okay. So back to your original point there, Eric, about going back to basics. Google just wants to ensure that whatever content is reads online and crawls is still beneficial for somebody. If it's adding value, if it's producing an answer to a question that people absolutely need, then where it comes from isn't necessarily important. So long as it's then meeting those user needs online, it's okay.
So yeah, the second quote talking about that last line about creating something that's a violation of their spam policies. Can you just explain real quick what Google is afraid of with AI and maybe some of the older SEO practices that could be exacerbated with AI that Google wants to avoid?
Yeah. So their spam brain policy is basically folded into the algorithm to then ensure that pages online aren't trying to be basically shady, to just pull traffic, to then redirect them for other like kind of pay to play schemes, or if they don't necessarily deserve to be ranking for that copy in general. So those could be anything from cloaking, doorway pages. I'm just going down a list here. Hacked content, hidden or obfuscated text and links, what they call keyword stuffing, link spam that was kind of mitigated through their Penguin update. All of these are then considered like spam policy issues. Now, when it comes to AI content and like generated content in general, they do have a list of things as well that are bad. So I'm listing them out here too. Text that makes no sense, that it's just a bunch of keywords kind of jammed together. Translated text, text that's then not edited and it's just kind of like published immediately. Text that's then synonymizing, paraphrasing, quoting, that's either scraping and spinning, stitching other combined pieces of content. All of that then is under their kind of spam content policy. So no matter what, you still need to then leverage AI or produce content in an original way, which can be done, particularly with AI copy, by then putting in the right prompt into any kind of AI generating tool, whether it's Demandwell or somebody else. There's this kind of like programmatic tenet that people refer to as like good data in, good data out. If you don't feed the right information to AI generators, then it's just going to basically run with it and it's going to spit out something that's very questionable. But if you are producing copy that you are authoritative on and you want to leverage AI as a tool to assist you in that, then you should be able to then write a set of instructions for the AI to then work off of, to say, hit these specific points, refer to our organization in this specific way, alleviate concerns for the user about these specific topics, and then tie that back to our business. That's great data in that will then generate quality content on the back end that can be optimized for SEO, that would bypass all of these, kind of red flag issues that Google looks at, and then you're good to go.
So just to tie that together, it sounds like with these platforms like OpenAI, and the introduction to AI into a lot of tools, including Demandwell, there's not really a limit on what you can generate text-wise with artificial intelligence if you give it the right instructions or have the right expertise to use AI to your advantage. And what we're trying to do with our AI writer tool is use our expertise and fit it over on top of our existing content production process to just make it better, cheaper, faster, easier.
Yep, exactly. And I don't think it's any exaggeration to say that probably everybody in this chat understands how difficult copywriting was up until this point in time. Very time consuming process. You do need to have somebody that understands the subject matter. You would then have to then go through the tedious process of then outlining to then say you need to hit these specific points, weave this specific type of narrative for this specific type of audience. And then it goes through copy editing and QA and the publication process. It's a lot. But that was the required process to then produce digital content to then yield SEO results. Well, now because of AI, the hardest part of that whole process is very simple. It's almost turnkey. And that's basically why we wanted to create this system within Demandwell, to then ensure that then all of our users, marketers who did have those problems had a very simplified path to then produce that content at scale and then hit the right audience, pull the right qualified traffic within your specific subject matters. So you can rank for the right keywords and you can get them onto the website to then become prospects and customers.
So yeah, let's talk about some of the features we built. But first, before we move on, does anyone have any questions about what we're talking about? Google standards for AI, how AI is moving into the SEO space? You can drop your questions in the Q&A in the chat. I'm gonna move on, and if you have any questions, go ahead and stop us. Yeah, so what we're trying to do is take AI copywriting in the right direction for SEO, and not just having a tool that generates text, but a tool that gives you performance copy that should be able to rank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back to all those other points about Google AI copy generation online and everything else, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And by just trying to then produce any type of copy that then your business or your website doesn't necessarily deserve to be writing for, that could be viewed as manipulation. But it's not correct for you to do that anyway. And so the way to do this correctly is to then find the right keywords that then answer those problems and pain points that your audience has. That's the best way to then, drive qualified traffic through search anyway to your website. But then figuring out what is the most helpful content to then produce, get it live onto the website, and then structure the page so then that way it addresses that query in question while also balancing what you do as a business and a website, and then answering those needs at the same time.
Yeah, right on. This is the outline generator. This is something that we've already had in the past. This is what we're basically building on top of with our AI writer. So this solution would automatically build an outline. It would find keywords that are related to your target keyword. If you see in that image in the top right, the section 1 keyword is the target keyword for that page, examples of B2B marketing. And this page has generated a ton of keywords that are contextually related. And we have, in the bottom left, you can see an example of our instruction templates. This use template box, you can add your own template instructions. So just make it really easy to remove repetition, or if you want to write custom instructions, you can add them here. And these instructions are going to be your input for the AI writer to give you SEO performance content. You're not having to punch this into ChatGPT or OpenAI. So yeah, the generation process. It's basically a familiar process if you've used AI writer tools in the past. Grady, do you want to talk a little bit more about what the product team was working on with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So The outline process then says, all right, what's the skeleton of this page? If we want to rank for this specific query, if we're going to speak then Google's language back to it, what terms is it expecting to see on this page to then be proven quantifiably more relevant than another page that's also live? Once you then have that structure in place, then you go into the generation tab, which you can see here. And we're going to walk through this whole process in the platform in a second as well. Uh, and you have then the opportunity to then input prompts that then tell the generative AI, the Demandwell AI process, how you should be producing your copy. There's multiple ways to go about doing it, but what's important to note here is that this isn't the same as just a standard box to then put in instructions like OpenAI. This has actually been updated for our own purposes to make sure that on the back end of that system, it does what it needs to then produce SEO performance copy in a unique way. You have the ability to then adjust tone of voice, writer role, and audience. There are some presets within there that you can kind of select from, like confident versus the audience we want to target is then your website visitors. You can also customize and type in your own there as well, which is super cool. And then beneath there is the ability to then input those prompts. And that first text block is going to then say, all right, I want to take the Demandwell static kind of like predetermined prompt, and I want to add to that my own subject matter expertise. On the back end, we're effectively saying we want you to produce it in this fashion to then meet these keyword objectives and have this structure. And in addition to that, whatever is included in this box as well. That's a great opportunity to then say, please hit these keywords. This is the narrative that I want to then produce. This is the audience that then you're going to be speaking to as well. Maybe you want to then say, refer to Demandwell as an example in the third person, or then I want you for you to then refer to the listeners in the second person. So then that way it's referring to Demandwell as an organization, but then the listener is then kind of possessive, as in like talking directly at them. You also have the ability to then say, I don't want to do that. I want to bypass that whole process. You could just check that box down there and then do your own entirely custom prompt. So we wanted to give our users as much flexibility as possible to then include or to adjust that good data in part to get the right copy on the output.
Yeah,
Once then you hit write it, then it kind of spits out.
yeah, what's great about this system is that the user is leaning on our expertise in SEO on the back end, and your input is your own expertise on your own business here in the additional prompts, and it's meshing that together for a prompt for our AI writer.
Exactly.
And yeah, how about you explain what's going on here? There's a lot of cool stuff going on, especially with this rewriter tool.
So once you hit write it, it basically takes all of the prompts, instructions, tone of voice, criteria, and then submits it to the AI generator to basically produce the copy for us. That can typically take several minutes just to kind of finally output. But once it does and it is complete, it then drops into our analyzer, which you're looking at in the screenshot here. And again, we're going to walk you through this whole process. On the left, you'll see scoring dials to then say, all right, how much of this have we hit that we requested for it? That's then the number of keywords that then were included in the outline that we want to see, as well as the word count for this specific piece, which could be a blog post or it could be an SEO performance piece, which we typically recommend be around 1,500 words and supplemented into an existing page layout. In the middle section there, you can see the text. And as you scroll down, you have the ability to then click on keywords that then you want to then see highlighted to say, where is it included in that text? Did this actually output the way that I wanted it to? And what's really cool about the platform that we've built here is that you have the ability to then highlight specific sections of it and then say, well, I actually don't like how this is worded. I think I need to then rephrase this, expand it, adjust it. So by highlighting the text in the middle, then you have that panel on the right, which is the rewrite section, which lets you then say, I want you to try to include these specific keywords when rewriting this, but then here's an additional prompt to then say, adjust this copy in a new way. And then it will generate it on the spot, and you can add it directly into the content to then supplement and improve the copy that you already have before you go live.
Yeah, so let's get into this demo. I think I'd rather just dive right in, and if you have questions while we're demoing, please ask in the chat and the Q&A. I just want to walk through real quick some different use cases for our AI writer and how you can think about using this in your own content production process. So the most obvious one is creating new content, generating new SEO copy, and some other more creative ways to utilize this is to augment an existing page. So that would look like taking an existing piece of copy in Demandwell, and you can go in and use that rewriter tool to rewrite specific paragraphs that you want to improve. And you could do something similar, rewriting existing content. Or no, yeah, I mixed that up. Augmenting content, you can add new AI copy to something that's already existing. Yeah, that's my fault. All right, I will hop into the platform and share my screen. Show y'all what we're working with. Here we go. Here's what it looks like. We generated this morning on our prep call for this webinar. We're looking at this, just how we left it. And I want to show off the keyword tool over here on the left. I can show you which keywords are included in the text. You can find it in the text by clicking on it. We have a fuzzy matching feature. So if we find an example down here, what is automated customer service? It's getting matched as automation can revolutionize customer service, automation in customer service. And so this is basically how Google is looking at these keywords, is that if this is the term that you're targeting, it's picking up some context that's pointing in the direction of your main target, which in this article is customer service automation.
I think this is a great teaser, Eric, but why don't we start at the beginning, actually, if you would go to the outline there. There we go. So as an example, Eric and I decided that we were going to produce a piece of copy about customer service automation as a keyword. We just thought that this would be a great one to go with. We don't necessarily do this ourselves. So we just wanted to see how our outline generator would then hold up through this process, and then produce it like we were providing customer service automation ourselves. So first step is then adding this from the keyword coach into the content plan and hitting generate through Demandwell AI. And basically it will then kind of automatically generate this outline in the platform for you using our own machine learning. It does this section by section to then say this is the appropriate format that your SEO performance content should then take based on Google's contextual understanding of the keyword for customer service automation. We're automatically going to then put word counts to them too, to then make sure that we try to hit like that 1,500 some word count, which we actually came in a little bit under that 1,300. With this though, we want to then obviously make sure that there's the ability for you as a user to then adjust this. And so the platform is then built per usual to then enable for people to then drag keywords in and out to then custom adjust this outline to ensure that then it meets your own criteria and it can hit that narrative if there is something that you want to kind of like weave through that copy itself. Once you're done, you click on that generate tab. And within here itself, again, just a quick overview. Top section is going to kind of be overarching prompt controls for this copy that we just outlined before. You have tone of voice, which I can't remember what the specific options are, Eric. I think it's confident, casual, and friendly, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but you also have the ability to then write in your own. So if you wanted to then say, well, this has to be a snarky piece of content that's written by something else, you can go ahead and do that to then say, this is exactly how we want to get it done. Writer role, we chose to manually write in the word as business because on the back end, what our software is doing is basically automatically adding in these criteria to the prompt. So we're basically telling the AI to produce this with a confident tone of voice as a business who is then trying to then draw in attention. And believe we chose the audience to be website visitors. We then wrote this very short prompt to then discuss customer service automation and how we wanted to then have the content be generated on the back end. Said 1,500 words. We wrote some information about the pros and cons of traditional customer service versus automated customer service, and then acted like Demandwell is a provider of customer service automation, and that the platform or the AI needs to then refer to us as the premier provider of that automation to users, specifically for e-commerce.
And then I wanted to point out this piece of instruction. I thought this was a really good piece of advice you had in these instructions about please refer to Demandwell in the third person and refer to customers in the second person, so that when it's generating text, it talks about Demandwell does this, Demandwell does that. And then when referring to customers, it says you can do X or you can do Y. So that just feels like best practices for writing. If you wanted to specify that to the AI.
And back to that good data in means good data out point. If you were just to say, write a page about customer service automation, it would. But if you also put that, I want it to be confident and the writer role as a blogger and for website visitors, then the AI might think that it is supposed to be written in the first person and that it is impersonating a blogger. And thus then it should say, I, in my own experience, as the copy comes out. At any point in time, you can bounce back and forth between these pieces. So if you see the full piece is then not to your liking, you can actually come back here, adjust that prompt, and just have it do the whole thing again, and then it will overwrite those results. You're also welcome to then go into the analyzer here, highlight sections to then rewrite them as well on a case-by-case basis. It's kind of up to you.
Yeah, and just to see what would happen, I also added some instruction down here in this section to see how it affects this paragraph differently. I asked it for automated services examples to create a list of different ways customer service can be automated and explain how each method will change the future of automated customer service. Pretty straightforward prompt. We can see this is that paragraph. And so it's listing these different ways to automate customer services. We also have other prompts that are generating lists in different ways. Grady, can you talk a little bit about how we can use this rewriter tool to update our copy and how to workshop this in this stage of generating copy?
Absolutely. So if you wouldn't mind scrolling back to the top, Eric. once you hit write, um, our system is going to then go out and deliver those prompts to then generate this content. And we do it in a specific way that's not just like holistic. It's saying, here's this section created this way, here's another one, to ensure that then we meet the specific scoring criteria that we know to be best practices for SEO performance. That's going to be happening within the back end of the platform. So after hitting write in this edit tab, you'll actually see a spinning wheel until it's complete. And then it's like actually loaded within here. Once it is loaded, you can then go through section by section, like Eric mentioned, and then say, let's give it a one over. Let's give it my own professional copy editing go to see how close it got to the content quality standards that I want to have before it goes live. That might be different for you and your specific instances. And if you're writing a blog post versus a SEO performance demand page, that might then kind of shift the priorities there. But let's say, for example, we do need to rewrite something. Scroll down on the left and find a keyword that's then missing, Eric, that we want to include. Maybe, I don't know, any one of those red ones.
Yeah. We'll do
Say
automated services meaning.
Okay, perfect. So clearly the platform missed this. And we need to ensure that for us, that is included into the copy because we know that to be contextually important. So what you can do then is that little green icon with the pencil. If you click on that, it's then going to then add that to the section over to the right to then say, this is what I'll need for you to include in my rewrite section. You can do that wholesale, but you could also do that by highlighting specific sections too, to then say, I don't know, any of those paragraphs, Eric, feel free to highlight that, and we'll use that as our example for rewriting. So now what it's going to do is it's going to then assume that this is the section that we want to rewrite and that we need to include automated services meaning within there. Under additional instructions on the rewrite selection as well, you might be able to then write new prompts to then say, I need a defined definition, or it seems redundant, but a definition of what automated services is. And you need to use the verbatim keyword of automated services meaning. There might be other things that are specific as well to that for your specific use case. But within here as well, you could also say, I need this to be 300 words. The selected word count, as you can see at the top, is only 173. Include this keyword, add additional instructions, do this with tone of voice, writer role, audience, what have you. Yeah, we did confident. You might want to write in business again. I think it's at the bottom of the, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
And then the audience would then be website visitors. And once that's then in play, if you hit generate, it will then go ahead and you can see the spinning wheel down there, which will take a few seconds, maybe a few minutes to then say, okay, I will then rewrite this section using the instructions that you provided as well. And then we can just add it straight to the body copy.
Yeah, and for anyone who hasn't used an AI writer before, one of the more frustrating things is when you're trying to generate longer pieces of copy and most of it looks good and some of the paragraphs don't make any sense. And it's hard to then prompt it to rewrite just one portion of it. So yeah, here's our new copy, 296 words.
So you can highlight that and delete, or if you want, or if the section was still selected, you could just hit add to body and then it would just replace that information for you.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at that. And so, yeah, here we go. Automated services examples included. Even in we even got a new header. So yeah, just like that, we've changed that one paragraph into all of this. And our keyword count grew by 1. This one. So yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Well, that's actually, I think it's still highlighted. So you might want to click on the left of automated services meaning, which that is examples.
Oh, right. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, that's mean. That's the still. There you go. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So does anyone have questions about using AI writer tools or using Demandwell's tool in particular? We're happy to help. We're happy to share our experiences, how we've been using the AI writer in our content production. If you have any questions about how you can use AI writers, Jill, thank you very much. You're welcome. Jill, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. But you're very, very welcome. RG, Gil. You're welcome, Gil. You wouldn't happen to have any questions about how to use AI writers? Has everything we've been talking about been making sense to y'all? Asking more questions now. Too many to list. Well, let's fire away. Grady, what has your experience been building the AI writer as far as your career goes for SEO? How has AI been changing your outlook on SEO?
That's
It's
a
pretty
big
early.
question, Eric.
It's pretty early. There's not a lot that we do know, but we're making it work right now.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because just SEO in general, like it has kind of a checkered past with people understanding the nuances of the algorithm and then how to manipulate it. And the biggest one that still exists today is backlinks. People then build backlinks to then say like that's appropriate SEO, but it is absolutely manipulation. And it was one of those things though where Google was like, well, we know it's manipulation, but it's also a key indicator of performance, because then you have reputable sites like G2 Crowd or Capterra or somebody else that's like actual, or bloggers or anybody that's pointing back to a website that then says this is authoritative on the subject matter. You should go over here and look at this information. So with backlinks, they couldn't necessarily then say like we have to remove this from the algorithm entirely because it still serves a purpose. Well, very similar thing happening with AI copywriting, because it's damn near impossible to determine, human written content from AI content. The language model is very sophisticated. It can program on its own effectively. That's shocking. And so to just write like kind of general marketing type content, it's super easy. It's almost impossible to determine which is written by humans and AI. So same deal with backlinks. Google's like, there is still a purpose for this. Like, yes, people are using AI generative tools, but it's still helpful for people to then kind of leverage that type of content generation. So we can't just automatically dismiss it. Now, back to that original point, is it actually because it's helpful, or is it because Google they don't have the sophisticated tools to say if it's copywritten or by an AI or not? I don't know. But at this point in time, it's absolutely still available to us as a tool, and you should absolutely be leveraging it no matter what as a marketer for your content strategy.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
Yep.
We
got a question here.
Yeah, about narrowing down. Basically, I think how I'm interpreting your question in the chat is, how do you narrow down what to prompt an AI writer to reflect what your audience is looking for, or what your audience wants to read.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So Grady, what would be some ideas on how you can prompt a tool in this section on how to better write for your audience? The most
Yeah.
obvious thing I can think of is directly tell the writer what your audience is.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything beyond that?
So this is kind of a two-part question, Gil. And I'm going to do my best to answer this as concisely as possible. First part is pre-decision, basically saying, what should I write about and why? And that actually requires a lot of understanding. Whatever you do as a business, you have people out there who would be qualified for you to then work with, who might be a reader, whatever it should be. And so having that audience understanding prior to even beginning this process is going to be critical to then say, all right, what are their pain points? What do they actually care about? And then how can I produce content to then answer those pain points, to then bring them onto my website, to then make sure that then they understand that I'm a great provider for them. Demandwell specializes this in our own kind of like kickoff process. We have a questionnaire that we like to like go deep dive and get to know our clients to make sure we understand who those personas are, what industries they work in, what are their pain points leading to a decision, and how can we map queries to that kind of purchase funnel process. But let's say, for example, you already understand that. You know what you needs to be written, and you're just kind of jumping straight into here and you say, all right, it is customer service automation. How should I tailor these prompts to kind of like more so address those needs? You got to look through that audience understanding lens to then say, all right, tone of voice, writer role, and audience. That's predominantly going to then be determined by your brand, how you prefer to then produce copy just in general with your own brand standards. But the dials and fine tuning of that should come into your additional prompts. And it's going to come down to the contextual understanding of what that subject matter is. Excuse me. So customer service automation, as an example. We know that there are traditional methods of customer service, like hopping on the phone or just straight up email, that then are being replaced by automation right now. And so maybe if that's the concern, that's the core intent of that query, that as it relates to our audience, then like, let's just target that specifically. Let's prompt the AI to then produce that copy. And then it's going to kind of be up to you to then say, what are the details within there? And then just what's a loose narrative structure that we want to then include. Other ways that you could then collect those. Yes, there you go. Pain points. Other ways that you could then collect that information of some tools that you probably use and have, Gil. Google Analytics and just through Google Search Console. Or even something else like a data dump tool like SEMrush could be helpful to then do some additional kind of like keyword research to then say, all right, what are the related terminology around customer service automation that might give me some more insight as to like what people are looking for out of an answer? Maybe in Google Analytics, you could go to some of the demographic data to then see what ages they're interested in, what other types of like topics they might be interested in as well. And then connecting those together would give you more information to put into the prompts here.
So in other words, the user of a writing tool like this should be the expert of their own customers. There may be some tactics or some data out there that can help you understand your customers better, but the AI is not going to write better about your customers unless you tell it to.
Exactly. As this is a perfect example, we were writing this as someone that provides customer service automation, but we could very well be a traditional customer service provider. And we want this thing to say the downfalls of customer service automation. So then we push the reader to then go towards traditional methods. If you don't identify that for the AI, it's just up to the AI to then determine. So you still need to be the one to say, produce it in this fashion or this fashion to then get that proper output that you're looking for.
Yeah, sounds great. So I wanted to shout out our SG Weekly next week. It's 7 blockers in content production. So, we're going over some of them today about, generating the actual text, but there's so much more involved as far as planning, outlining, writing, editing, and publishing. And so we're going to go over how to remove some of those blockers next week. Hopefully that's a great follow-up for anyone who's interested in the AI writer and adding that into their toolkit. We do have time for a couple more questions if anyone has them. So now's the time to get them in if you want. Grady, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. We're still on kind of like riding the cutting edge of generative AI. So there's still a lot to be learned throughout this whole process. There are people that are starting to put prompt engineers on like their job titles. And so there's like a whole subculture of like people understanding the nuances of how to prompt AI to then get what you need to out of it. So it's turning into kind of like a fascinating new world right now. But from a marketing perspective, it's wonderful because producing content at scale could be anywhere from $500 a piece to several $1,000s. And now you can basically kind of produce that content like immediately. For people that then are spread very thin with their content production that know that they need SEO results, this is a lifesaver. You can then produce the blog post that you need to, or the performance copy that you need to at scale. But to then yield those SEO results, you still have to have technical components on your website that are humming appropriately, doing what they need to. And you need to then understand, to Gil's earlier point, what keywords you should be targeting to then drive qualified traffic to your website. So it's more of a holistic thing that Demandwell offers, and we'd love to talk to anybody about that if they have questions further, if they need help. But this is kind of like the most difficult lift in the end of that process, and AI is just phenomenal to help you get it accomplished in live quickly.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in scheduling a demo, you can leave your email in the chat, or you can find our demo form on our homepage on our website, and we can show you more about the AI writer and the rest of our platform. For everyone who's showed up, thank you so much. Hope you learned a lot about AI writers. Thanks, Grady, for joining. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Thank you, everyone.